JuJu Gotti begins his audition for executive producer today.
There's a new sheriff in town.
There is. We will see how that goes. This is our last official day at the Clevelander. We will have an awkward week next week as we transition.
We still have shows tomorrow.
I understand.
That we will be doing
but
live.
This will be our last official day at the Clevelander. We have show to do tomorrow elsewhere. I don't know why you need to make that clarification on me. You know what? Go sit outside for 2 minutes. Just go sit outside. Just go sit outside.
Send his ass to hell.
Go to hell. Go to hell.
What?
Send his ass to hell.
Go to hell.
To the penalty box.
We will celebrate our time at the Clevelander. I don't know if the rest of you are emotional about this or not, but David Samson is one of the new Meadowlark employees. It has been a polarizing hire, but many people love the content that David Samson puts out on Nothing Personal, which is now part of the Le Batard and Friends family, and love this hour. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, David, is and I know you talked about this on Nothing Personal, but I want the most interesting things about Endeavor getting together UFC and WWE as a business deal, as a $9 billion business deal.
It's even more. It's a $21 billion business deal. They valued WWE at $9 billion, and they valued UFC at $12 billion. And there's a lot of negotiation that goes into that. What that means is who owns what percentage of shares of this public company that they are creating. The true value of the company will come when those shares are available to market and where they're priced by the investment banks, and then what happens to the market once the shares are available to be bought and sold. The real question that excites me is picturing Dana White, Ari Emanuel, Vince McMahon, and Tony Khan in a room as they try to negotiate. I'm sorry?
Nick Khan.
Nick Khan. Who's Tony?
It's a different con man.
Yeah, Tony owns the competitor.
Tony's a very nice man,
that
Dan.
Nick and Tony are related?
No, they're
con
not.
Man. He is a con man. He's literally a con man. Like, that's literal.
I know what you're doing there.
Tony is Shad Khan's son. They own Fulham and Jacksonville and AEW.
So it's Nick. Thank you.
Correct.
It's all a con.
It may be a con, except it's going to be decided by people who actually buy shares, which could be you, or you could buy it in the retirement plan that is so amazing at Meadowlark. People could go buy shares.
Would you buy shares, though, in what it is that they're doing? What do you think of it as a business deal? And I want you to take us through as well, whenever you finish that thought, about what it takes to make a $9 billion deal. How do they arrive at that number?
So what they do is they look at the revenues, they look at the free operating income, which is free cash flow, which is there was a leak of the numbers that was part of the presentation that's given to bankers as they try to figure out who's going to own what. So when you're going to merge with a company, and that's really what this is. People are saying it's the UFC buying WWE. That's not at all what it is. They are merging the two of them together and forming a new company. The first thing you have to decide is who's actually going to own more, because you can't make it 50-50. Because any business that is led by a 50-50, you are running the risk of inaction, because you have to have full unanimity to do anything, to figure out the color of paint, or to figure out what TV deal you're going to do or who you're going to hire. So generally, you try to make it 50.1 and 49.9 if you view equally the value that both partners are putting in. And when you're looking at the business of UFC and WWE, there can be no question who is the bigger business right now. It is UFC. And what WWE is doing by admitting that, they took a lesser position in the valuation of the company. But they gave Vince a PR out by naming him the executive chairman of the board, which is the equivalent of nothing. He's going to say that he still has operational control. He's in the room where it happens. But at the end of the day, this is an Endeavor-led project. And the reason WWE did this is they were trying to sell. They wanted to keep a piece, which is what they have. They wanted to keep people in the room and keep operating, which is what they're able to do. But they want to take advantage of this strategic partnership with endeavor in order to grow their business because they think that owning 48% of a new company is better than 100% of the old company. And the math only works if the shares go up in value, and we won't know that until it's actually made public. So don't call it a $9 billion deal or a $21 billion deal. We won't really know what it is until we see what the market cap is of this new company.
Plus, Endeavor has proven through their dealings with Dana White that they'll allow the people that know the business to operate the business, and that is fertile grounds for Vince McMahon's ego. But will he be able to actually operate in a silo now that he is in a merged company with the UFC and not the more profitable side of this company? They keep saying that everything will continue as it used to be, but surely there has to be some sort of different aspect of control here that is not being made public.
David is laughing at you.
I'm laughing because here's what can't happen now. Vince McMahon can't pay off people. There can be no more. Maybe he's aged out of that bracket, but there's no more of that. When you are running a public company, when you've got someone who owns a bigger percentage than you do, Vince McMahon now has a boss. And that's something that Vince has never had since he bought the company from his father for $1 million. So I am going to be very surprised if this lasts. So here's how it ends when these mergers take place. You can name co-presidents or you can do it what's supposed to be a 50-50. But at the end, what happens within 5 years at most, but mostly it's really earlier than that, someone will be gone. And I think it will be Vince.
Interesting. Because Vince was gone and he clawed his way back, and he clawed his way back on the back of this Endeavor deal. So I want to know, for the consumer, though, what can they expect out of this merger? Is there a chance here that this media entity bundles its rights? The WWE rights are up at the end of the year, and they're supposed to get a major deal, especially with Nick Khan heading up negotiations. What kind of crossover corporate synergy might there be with these? I mean, they're similar, but they're very different. One's a real, true combat sport. The other one's a made-for-television stage program that's scripted.
Yeah, so think about what WrestleMania did. I think that at SoFi, they had about $21 million in ticket sales over 2 nights. Were you there, Mike?
Yeah.
So when you go to a UFC fight and you go to WrestleMania, it's 2 different types of entertainment, but to a broadcaster, you are giving them tremendous programming. And so the reason why you'd bundle it is you can go to different areas in different countries, including the US, and instead of offering X hours, you now can offer X plus Y hours. And the view is that you're going to get paid more than the sum of the parts. And that's why you do these mergers. But there will be some economies of scale that'll happen, which means you don't need a separate marketing department, as an example, or a separate sales department for WWE and UFC. So there's going to be consolidation. They're going to have to cut expenses, like you've seen with a lot of the media mergers that have taken place, where expenses get cut because you've got duplication in job descriptions. So this is going to take some time to figure out how to maximize it, but that's what shareholders and that's what Wall Street is looking for. They're looking for more profitability. They don't care about who wins or what's fixed or what's not. This is solely done based on the numbers in a very robotic, unemotional way as they try to figure out what the value of this entity is. So when you're going out and selling your TV rights, you do want to put those 2 groups together because that is where they have the most power, is in bringing in those rights fees.
And they're not beholden to combining their rights across the board. They can work out deals internationally, right, where they bundle their rights for certain countries but split them up in the United States. Interesting note, you mentioned that they might consolidate some positions behind the scenes, like marketing and public relations. That all makes perfect sense, David.
Yes.
I don't know if he answered the question of whether he would buy stock or not in this. It sounds.
I did tell you because I don't know where it's going to be priced. I mean, who would ever answer that question?
Well,
right
I
now?
guess I'm just saying, do you believe, because you're saying things I have not heard elsewhere about thinking that this is a little bit doomed, not as a business, but these entities staying together. You're questioning whether or not these people can coexist without ego. And I'm asking you whether you believe the partnership, you say it's a valuable streaming service, whether it is something.
It is. It's hugely valuable to Peacock. That it's quantifiable how much they've actually
And
increased subs.
ESPN, it's being reported that ESPN is going to want to get into the WWE business.
Well, they have all the relationships there. I have one more question about the workforce, because a lot of the talent that makes this thing go is they're all independent contractors. They have had individual incidents of people trying to unionize, and for two publicly traded companies, WWE and UFC, once it got folded into Endeavor, they've been able to stop this. Is a union amongst fighters and wrestlers a more possible thing now that this is all one big company?
So when you go out on Wall Street and you have what's called a prospectus, where you are giving information about the projections of this combined company and why this combined company is more valuable than the companies that are separated, part of that prospectus is a big part of the document are the risks. And what the risks are in this case, unionization of labor that's the same thing as saying increased cost of labor. And the labor are the fighters, the labor are the wrestlers. What do you pay people to provide the entertainment that enables you to get these rights fees? Which is the same thing as saying, what are the costs of goods sold? Will it be more expensive to put this product out? And I think it is clear that if this business is valued the way they claim it's valued, and it becomes a public company, there are going to be plenty of people who are going to step in there and say these fighters and these wrestlers should be paid a higher percentage of revenue, something that Dana White has been very clear about. His operating strategy has been increased profit margin by increasing revenue and holding expenses flat. So a percentage of revenue that is paid to players in football, in basketball, the more revenue the NBA has, the higher the salary cap.
Yep.
They're tied in very many ways, actually. In football, it's the same. In baseball, it's not specified, but generally 48 to 51% of revenue goes to salaries. Dana White has had the opposite view. He wants the lowest percentage possible to show profitability. But at some point, the fighters are going to get together and they're going to realize that that is not the proper way to go forward. And that is a risk in terms of profitability.
Well, I think it's probably why Dana White and Vince McMahon are running these individual entities, because over the course of their decades now on the job, they've been able to stifle any unionization attempts, be it the former UFC heavyweight champion who tried for a power play and he tried and failed, and Vince McMahon has snuffed out any feeble attempts to unionize on his end. That's where they bring their biggest value possibly to Endeavor. Do you foresee cross-promotion? UFC has a deal here in the United States with ESPN. Do you see them promoting WWE cards on their programming? Are there any rules against that? And I'm sure someone has already bandied about the idea of a mega card, where you try to get both fan bases to buy one singular event where you have wrestling matches and mixed martial arts matches.
Can you not imagine a scenario where you combine WrestleMania the way you just said with what they just did in SoFi? Can you imagine what would happen? You put that in Vegas, you put UFC somewhere else, in Los Angeles, put it at MetLife, put it somewhere else, and you're talking about making it a huge multi-day event. Look at what goes on. I don't know if you guys pay attention to this, but what goes on, something called BravoCon. BravoCon is this entity that was put together through all the shows that are on Bravo, and they get all the fans together who like all these different shows. They cross everyone over. They bring in all talent from all over. They charge a ton of money. Everybody makes a ton of money. The network does. It's a bonanza of revenue that comes from brand affinity. And what UFC and WWE have going for them is tremendous brand affinity. Now it's time to exploit that brand affinity, and you can further exploit it by combining the efforts. That was the purpose of this merger. But Dan, to your point, my biggest issue is that you are combining two egos that may be amongst the two biggest egos in the space of sports and entertainment. And when you're talking about Dana White and Vince McMahon, that I do not see a world in which they sit in a room together and work together to make a business bigger.
I feel like brand affinity is what the Marlins were lacking, honestly.
Not for lack of trying, Chris.
No, I'm not saying, this is not honestly not a shot at you. I mean, like,
I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Marlins fans were just like, oh, like indifferent at the end.
To your point, you see brand affinity kind of come back on Friday nights at home when they wear the teal.
Yes. Oh, God, those look good.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well,
right?
I've explained to
everyone
the-
likes the
I've
throwbacks.
explained to
everyone
the-
does throwbacks.
Well, I explained to
That's the
the
way to sell old jerseys for new money. The reason why the Heat have 49 jerseys is that they hope people buy 49 jerseys. But at some point, we tried to always sell the name on the front of the jersey because we knew the names on the back would always change. And so brand affinity is something we'd spend a ton of money on the marketing side. And the players would complain because we weren't promoting them specifically. We were promoting the team. But then the fans would say, why aren't you promoting the team? But then at the end of the day, what's happening is they only care if you're not winning.
One last question on the Endeavor deal. I imagine we won't see much cross promotion or this fantasy booking of a major card that has both UFC and WWE on it until the WWE's media rights deal is done, because I'm sure ESPN has to have exclusivity over pay-per-view events for the UFC. They can't just put a title fight on Peacock, correct?
Yeah, they cannot. You're going to wait till both of them expire. You're not going to have one of them do a new media deal before the other one is up.
David Samson. My name is Julio. You can call me Julian if you want. You get a lot of flack online for being such a tough guy, so business, straight edge guy. Let's soften you up a bit. What's the most adorable thing you've done this week?
What's the most adorable thing
Yes,
I've done this week?
That's a good
Yes,
question. It's an excellent question. The trying to humanize David Samson can be a bit of an exercise.
I just imagine JuJu on a set with a couch and another chair over here.
What is the most
Crowd full of women,
what
like
do you
middle-aged
view?
women.
He'll answer any question.
Yes, I will.
Sometimes honestly. What is the most
Always, honestly. I think that's the issue.
What is the most adorable thing you've done this week?
To me, I define adorable is inversely correlated to the level of convenience the action is for me. So I was at a gas station, and I was putting gas in my car, and there was someone who was having a hard time with the credit card figuring out how to do it, and it wasn't working. And I actually stepped around the tanks to the car who was my partner car. And this just happened on the drive in that I just did yesterday. And I went around the tanks, which was 4 steps out of my way, in order to assist this person in helping with the credit card, who it turns out was an older person, which used to be a much greater number of people in my view, but not anymore as I get older. They were doing the credit card wrong, and I helped them. And I thought that that was very nice of me. I don't know that I would view it as adorable, though I did have a Passover Seder with my young nephews, and one of them touched me with dirty, charoset hands, and I did not yell and scream, and I actually embraced that. So maybe that was adorable too, that I wasn't sort of the grumpy uncle last night. I was well-behaved and trying to be nice.
David, how big of a transaction fee did you charge the old man?
It was a woman,
Oh.
and the answer is none. But it was very touching, and the response was, "Thank you, young man." So I actually got a lot out of it.
Warm and fuzzy.
Put it on the poll, please, JuJu, at LeBatard Show. Is going 4 steps out of your way adorable? The historic
Like bunnies.
first public act of kindness from
Puppies.
David Samson. But I want to ask the group
Wait a
here.
minute. Are you telling me that when you calculate how you're walking down the street or when you're driving, that you don't do it in terms of efficiency? Like that doesn't even occur to you when you're changing
Efficiency
lanes or when
doesn't
you're-
go into my calculations on the adorable formula. Like
If
It
I'm
did
telling
not.
if I'm telling the story of helping a lady at a gas station, I don't tell you how many steps it took me to get over to her.
Okay, fair enough. Because to me, that was the exact calculus that was in my mind. Like, how long is this going to take, and can I get it done before my car is done filling up with gas? And by the way, I wouldn't have done it if it didn't have one of those click things that you can put in place that keep the gas going.
Love the
I don't
click
know if
thing.
You know what I'm talking about?
Love it.
And some of the stations do not have it where you have to hold it the whole time.
It's the worst when you got to stand there the whole time.
Miami's got so
Bush
many that
League.
don't work. Miami's got so many of those that
No,
no
honestly,
one's bothered to fix.
This is one of David's greatest takes. I hate the one that will work for like 7 seconds and then pop.
And it
It's like
comes off.
either don't work or work. What I hate is when it starts to work, I'm gonna go wash my windshield, even though I never actually do that. I'm just saying, hypothetically, I'm washing my windshield and then pop. It's like I gotta walk back over.
Let me
It's
just
ridiculous.
tell you that I would not have made the 4 steps if it involved letting go of the lever. I would have finished filling my car and then hoped that someone else would have come to help.
Put it on the poll, JuJu, at
Adorable.
LeBatard Show. Is your favorite thing at the gas station the clicker that keeps the nozzle in place so that you can do other things?
David, today is our last official day at the Clevelander. How many times have you been here, and what is your favorite Clevelander memory?
My favorite Clevelander memory, we used to spend a lot of time at the Clevelander because remember, we had a Clevelander in the ballpark. So I spent a lot of time there negotiating with the people who owned the Clevelander back in the day as we put together a deal to put the Clevelander in Marlins Park. And we would go there for afternoons and we'd do a meeting and we would block off from 2 to 7 and the meeting would be from 2 to 2:30. And then we would just go hang out by the pool from 2:30 till 7 and have a lot of fun. I never felt unsafe. It was always an interesting, fun crowd. There were times when we were playing games or jumping in the pool or all sorts of interesting things, and that was pleasure. My biggest business memory, I believe, is the first time I came into your studio and I pulled my car up right in front because no one had told me where to park, and someone came out, and I expected it to be valet, and it was someone who came out and said, "You can't park there. That's where Dan Le Batard parks." And I said, "Listen, I don't want to take his spot, but I'm leaving my car here. I'll be back in a half hour." And the answer was, "I'll have to ask Mr. Le Batard." And I said, "That won't be necessary." And I just kept moving. I gave him the keys, and I came up to your studio.
Dan, what did you say when they asked you?
They never came. They knew not to ask. That's my spot. They pretended to ask.
Get off my plane.
The fourth time that I was there, I dealt, when I was there for a couple days in a row last year, and I had to deal with the garage. I had never been in that garage. And it did not seem like a professional outfit that I was a part of when I had to deal with getting from the garage to your studio through 4 back doors, a kitchen, and then up 2 flights of stairs.
It's like Goodfellas. You got to go through
I
the whole
pretty
thing.
much thought,
Well, they have the
and
mint
it's a
coat.
good thing that I did not come since I lost my smell. And I was thinking to myself that I would have come way more often recently if you had wanted me to.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, phrasing, brother.
He has lost his scent. He
I wish
has
it came a lot
lost
more.
his sense of smell. He does not actually smell, or he smells like nice things when I have smelled him. He
Hasn't come since.
He is a very, we already got that joke. It's been made 4 times already. Let's get to
Someone
the top.
just sent me something, Dan. It's being done in Mexico, and once in the United States that they're giving shots in people's necks in the hospital that gives them their sense of taste and smell back. I've had a bunch of people get to me on Twitter with that, and I've been deciding whether or not to do that, but it's not FDA approved, and so I'm not sure what to do.
The shot in the neck seems aggressive. I have also seen that experimentally they are fixing some of the smell, sense of smell and taste for people, but I don't know how successful that is. And I can't imagine you trusting it.
No, and I'm not going to go to Mexico to do it, right? That doesn't seem, and that's nothing against Mexico. I just feel like I don't want to be the first.
I think
It's not like I make a living. I'm not a chef.
It is something against Mexico, though.
No, because I would have said the same thing if it were almost any other country.
But then it would be something against any other country. I believe you. I believe that you're not making that Latin specific.
Chris Cote had a top 5, right? Let's go to
Oh, I got
top
one.
5. All right, what's your top 5?
Top
Chris
5
Cote?
Clevelander moments for me. Some of these are
Okay.
in show, some of these are out of show, but just Clevelander moments for me. OLI, the early club segments. When we brought in like the curtain, what school did like the curtain reveal?
ASU, forks up, baby.
We did that for like months where we would have mascots come in. We had Greg Cote appear even though it was a Friday.
the Clevelander girls.
The Clevelander girls would come up. It
what
was a time.
that was.
My dad was dancing.
Yeah.
And C. Martin also.
What a time that was. Second OLI. This could be way higher, but Mike used this on one of his lists early in the week, so I don't want to, double up on that. The Josh Norman hug. It just has to be on. It has to be on everyone's list. It was just. It's
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think it was made funnier by the fact that it was security cam footage and not like an actual camera?
Yes.
Well, it was because I believe like Josh just came up and said Dan gave me like. How did we learn of the hug? Because we went back and we were like, we got to see this thing. I forget who
No,
said.
there were people around who saw it and said it was awkward, yeah, including Josh Norman, who was made uncomfortable by it.
Classic times. Number 5. Dan thinking Amin was a Clevelander waiter the first time he met him.
Ah, he took my number one.
And I thought Diana Rossini was somebody who worked in Deportes too. I did when she was here. I didn't recognize her either.
Oh, that was just. He just. I mean, what was your thought there when he did that?
Well, he never addressed me. Like, what happened was I was sitting in this the place where
I
Louis
thought it was
sits.
weird that a Clevelander waiter was having his
sandwich.
lunch in our setting. I did think that was weird.
So for the listeners, before you enter the actual studio area, there's a little kind of ante room where Louis actually
Saddest
sits.
green room in the history of green. Well, it used to be.
Is that used to be the green
That
room?
used to be our green room.
Oh my God! So I was someone. I think Mike was like, you want a sandwich? Because I came early because I thought it was like an ESPN show where we have to do a pre-show meeting, and they didn't do any of that stuff around here. Exactly. And so Mike was like, "Do you want lunch or something?" I'm like, "Sure." So I ordered like a turkey sandwich, and I'm eating it right there, and Dan walks in and walks right by me. And I was like, wow, this Dan Le Batard guy, he's all business. He's going straight for the studio.
You had your back to us.
Yeah,
though.
I was sitting there, but I looked up and you walked in and you walked straight past me, and I was like, oh, I guess he's all business. And this was like 10 minutes before showtime. Stugotz showed up like 1 minute before showtime. And then I hear Mike say, did you meet Amin? And Dan said, no, where is he?
Number 4.
Number 4, Super Bowl in Minnesota. Mina Kimes doing a report from a zip line.
Is that a Clevelander moment?
She's still with us? So get to Brady with 4 is what it sounded like.
Stugotz sounded so much better.
Oh, the classic.
so young.
By the way, this top 5 brought to you by Miller Lite. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Number 3.
Number 3, this is a personal one. I don't even know if people remember this in here. We had a meeting once with important ESPN suits at Naked Taco about a block away. And on our way over there, I stumbled and tripped over the side of the roadway. And I fell down, and I'm like, okay, this is fun, not that embarrassing. And as I'm like, all right, everyone, all the suits saw it. So we stand up and we start walking, continuing.
No, we don't stand up. You stand up.
Well, we all stood up and we start walking towards Naked Taco. And I realize as we're walking now, I have a gigantic tear in my pants right in the crotchal region. So now I have to sit down at this big, literally the most important people at ESPN. And it's like, I'm not going to, so I have to hide a gigantic tear in my shorts the entire lunch.
Did you cross your legs?
I did. Luckily, it was not like a high top, so my legs weren't really exposed. I got in nice. They didn't notice. We unveiled this the next day on the air, but it was just the peak of embarrassment for me. So that's got to be on there for me.
Number 2.
Number 2 is the Greg Cote tumor hard net workout.
I just want to give you a sample of what Greg Cote sounded like, which set us all off in a panic, everyone except for Greg Cote, because he's old and he's stubborn and he refuses to go to the doctor. So that's what you sounded like for the better half of a month now. Me, Dan, everyone. We told you repeatedly to go to the doctor. You ignored us. You finally went to the doctor, and the results of your visit to the doctor were what?
Yeah, after several tests, they found a tumor in my chest.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.
It's hilarious. Who was that talking, by the way?
It was benign.
Number 1.
It was a benign tumor.
Not as funny if it had been malignant.
They found a tumor in my chest.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN
I
Radio.
missed that so much.
They found a tumor in my chest.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.
Can you imagine someone who doesn't watch the show?
I was so mad, bro. I love Greg Cote. I was so mad at y'all.
They found a tumor in my chest.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.
Great work by Stu there.
And us in the back, because we see the clock coming down, we're like, oh no, this has not gone as planned.
And I had to click the button, so that didn't feel great.
That was Stu?
We all learned of the tumor together, I think, as well.
It's Dan, Stu, and Greg Cote on ESPN Radio.
Number one.
And number one, this is probably a top moment for everybody else, a horrifying moment for me, in the battery costume, down by the pool, waving my little jazz hands as Dan berates a security guard. Not berates, but just defends our honor. And holy crap, was that a moment.
I'm still mad about First Take coming in here and eating all the muffins downstairs while they were trying to charge you guys $9 for those muffins. I'm mad at everybody about that still. David?
Can we talk about the new studio, Dan? I have a major question.
Yes?
What is the bathroom situation?
Oh, much better.
Yeah.
A much better bathroom situation.
Are there do the doors go all the way to the floor, or do you see people's feet?
It's two individual bathrooms.
Yeah. You get your own private things experience. You lock that door and you got the sink to yourself, you got the urinal to yourself, you got the toilet to yourself.
We're going to have bathroom lines for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, a little backup.
Yeah.
I wanted to
And
ask.
how many times a day will they be cleaned?
Oh, not at all.
Oh, shit.
I want to ask the group, the shipping container, experts in local things. I told you the first thing that I lost, I removed from my data bank of knowing things about sports, the names of arenas, the names of ballparks, the sponsored names of things. I know very, very few of them. The local Miami Heat arena, how many people in the other room know the new name for the new arena that the Miami Heat will play in? Any of you?
Yes, most of us in here does, especially Jeremy, considering he goes there.
I'm tired of Jeremy. I'm tired of him raising his hand first. I thought we got rid of that with Whittingham, and he's back, and all of it. I don't like that Jeremy has all the answers to all the questions. But everyone back there, because I still don't know the name of it. What do they do? What does that thing do? The sponsor, the new sponsor.
No clue.
Katia.
No clue.
Katia Arena. I think it's how it's.
No, that's not
It's not Katia?
No.
It's
Russian
Kaseya
figures.
Center. Kaseya Center, which I believe I'm subscribed to that OnlyFans.
It's a very small deal, actually.
Me three.
What do you mean?
I believe I read that it's 117 over. Was it 117 over 17?
That's what I saw.
You know how hard it is to get corporate sponsorship in this market for a ballpark. It's got to be harder than it is just about anywhere else professionally.
Well, it is. There's no corporate support in Miami at all because there's no major corporations. The biggest ones are Carnival, and they only deal with the Heat because they're owned by the same guy. You've got Hard Rock, who spends its money, but really only if there can be gambling part of it, or some sort of deal with pro player. Ryder and Burger King don't count because they do not spend money in the market. So when you look at the 30 major league cities, or in the NBA, the 32 cities, I believe that Miami's corporate support is in the bottom 2 or 3 every year. And in baseball, it's in the bottom 1, actually. It has nothing to do with who owns the team. Huizinga, Henry, Loria, Sherman. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with which corporations. Now, the mayor claims that Miami is the hub and everybody's moving here, and that's fine. Whether it's true or not is not relevant to me. None of them are spending money on the local sports teams.
I'm really surprised that Bacardi didn't put their hand in naming the new arena, naming the arena.
So they're funny, right? They do deals, but they do deals as a direct correlation. They answer to a family who wants to make money, and they want to know how much volume they will have, what will be the movement of bottles, what will be the area where they can explain the investment. And so when we did the Bacardi bar, we wanted them to be a full quadrant sponsor at Marlins Park, and they would not pony up the money because even with our projections, which turned out to be completely fantasy in terms of what attendance would be, the actual amount of Bacardi that would be sold would not justify the level of investment. And I assume it's the same as the Heat as well.
David, if you were a business owner, could you justify naming rights in this market?
I couldn't justify naming rights in any market.
And so it's not. You don't think it's from the sponsor standpoint, right? You don't think it's a good business deal to put your name on a building?
Yeah, the people who make those decisions are the people who have marketing budgets and the people who it's either use it or lose it. Here's a little hint when you're running a business, Dan. Don't make any part of your budget use it or lose it, because then people, by definition, will use the rest of what's in their budget, or else that budget number goes down the following year. So you should make people justify their expenses each year. And what happens in many of these companies, there's a marketing budget, let's say $20 million a year. And if you only spend 12, then the next year you're only going to get 12. And so a lot of these deals are done. There's huge ego involved because the companies get to send clients or send executives and get good suites. But the actual value of the naming rights, you have to look at what other benefits they're getting. So you get a suite thrown in, you get season tickets thrown in, you get giveaways thrown in, you get other signage around the ballpark thrown in. And when you get down to it, like Citibank is the best example. Citi Field, $20 million a year in New York. That deal is not justified by the naming of the building. They did the banking for the deals with the Mets. And when you do the banking, you make money. So it is a purely financial transaction. And in Miami, there's no way to justify it.
We will get to his movie review in a second, but you consume a lot of content. You are an insomniac. You're proud of the amount of content and entertainment that you consume. Z-Way is a Showtime show that is being canceled, and now Showtime is getting out of the late-night business entirely. They had Desus and Mero. They had two wildly inventive shows. This one was great. She and It was great. As good a thing as I have seen making awkward television and doing it around race relations. It's now going to be gone. When you see all of these streamers cutting back, David, what are your thoughts when it's reported that HBO Max is going to lay off 70% of its staff, that some of the best makers of things are now getting clipped by cost?
Well, there have been free rides because the assumption was that the better the content, think about it. Can we go back to scripted television, unscripted television? Do you think it's a secret or a surprise why there's so much more unscripted reality television? Because it's so much cheaper for the networks to make than scripted television. And the economics say, let's look at Fox's whole lineup, for crying out loud. If you're the president of Fox Unscripted, you're one of the most powerful people in Hollywood right now because that's all that's being done. And what these streamers said is, we thought we would get way more subs at a way higher price, way faster, and it didn't happen. And they got all this talent up front. It's like starting a business and bringing in all sorts of talent on the assumption that they're going to provide revenue to your company. And then you realize that you can't sell through their shows or you can't figure out how to monetize them. And then they just start disappearing one at a time. And that's what's happening with streamers. Look at what the deal they did with Adam Sandler. You know, Kevin Hart. They thought volume is what mattered, and it turns out that actual quality matters. I just reviewed on Nothing Personal the new Sandler Aniston movie, Mystery Theater. I can't believe I can't remember the name.
Murder Mystery 2.
Murder Mystery 2. So bad that they spent $1.50 on the script and the actors mailed it in because of the amount of money they were getting paid. And those types of deals are going to start going away.
But David, I don't even know if the quality matters. I think we've reached a point where they don't care for quality at all because it's still going to be less of an ROI than the unscripted shows where they don't have to pay union for the
Discover certainly doesn't care about quality. That the CEOs who are coming and making the largest slashes don't seem to care at all about quality.
Because they've got to get their house in order. First you get the house in order, then you start worrying about quality again, but you got to cut expenses first.
What is the movie that you're reviewing for us? And I will remind everyone that Nothing Personal is worth your time. You should listen to it. He is tackling a lot of stuff that other people aren't tackling. He is handling business terrain in a way that I'm not hearing anywhere. Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. It is a part of the Le Batard and Friends Network. What are you reviewing this week?
When you say part of the network, but not part of the feed, right?
Not yet. You got to earn that.
No, it's just that's how it works.
Well, and the audience right now, it's really divided, right? Because when I say you're polarizing, they're pretty mad at us for bullying you too. It's not even here. It's not like people are just pounding the higher, although many of them are pounding the higher. You're getting a lot of people on your side because they think we're bullies.
No, but I want you to take me, please, inside your corporate meetings that you have about which shows go in the feed and when you decide how that works. Is it based on your level of investment? Is it based on how much you like the host of the show or how polarizing the host of the show is? Tell me what happens there, because one of the things that we talked about during the negotiation was how it would work with your feed. And I said nothing personal, stand up without the feed, but I was just curious what makes you decide what goes in and what doesn't.
Hey, David, when you find out, let me know, because Cinephobe also stands alone.
Well, I'm asking right now. Let's get an answer.
Yeah, let's get an answer, Dan.
I'm
What's
not in
the deal?
charge of that. I'm too busy trying to build a kitchen.
Where's that air fryer?
That is so ridiculous that you're going to get away with saying I'm not in charge of that.
I'm not in charge
I
of that.
don't know anything about my feed. It's only my name.
David, how many times did you say I'm not in charge of that when you were president of the Marlins? If someone came to you
Zero.
with a
I was
problem?
in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got it. Skipper is the one in charge of everything.
Well, don't ask Dan about feeds because he thinks you're talking about the main feed DLS. You're talking about the LeBatard and Friends network feed, and there's a little bit of a migration latency there. Amin, you are in that network feed.
Oh.
He also thought you were talking about feeding. So.
Yes, and of course, my obsession would be the kitchen. Of course.
Were you trying to glom on to my uprising here, and you were not aware that your show is in the feed already?
I'm a man of the people.
I just can't hear two people over 50 talking about feeds right now. Just what are you reviewing this week?
Can we review Cocaine Bear, please?
Yeah.
I thought you did
We
already.
have.
I thought you have already.
You took a hatchet
You're in
to it.
reruns? You're already
I
mailing
believe
it
that
in?
got left on the cutting floor, gentlemen.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, it may have.
Yeah, it was when you were trying to jeopardize the deal that we made. Go on.
Oh, which time?
Yeah.
It went. That is so
The one that was a bridge too far.
The lost tapes.
The one that happened when I was on vacation in Hawaii, or the other one?
The other one. You were here for this one.
It was the fourth one, not the first, second, or third one, Dan. Keep track of the number of times. that it
Cocaine
got
Bear. Go for it.
So Elizabeth Banks is someone who I've been following her career since maybe before Zach and Miri made a porno, or maybe just after that. And she went on to become a very, very good director. And when I saw that she was directing this movie, I actually thought there'd be a chance that it would be a quality movie. It turns out that not only is the directing bad and beneath what her abilities are, the script is worse than that. The BS fear or the joke of a bear on cocaine and what a bear on cocaine can do while people are trying to kill the bear or not kill the bear or find drugs, not find drugs, I found it to be so stupid that I laughed out loud, and I counted 0 times. And my guess is the movie expected me to laugh out loud at least 6.5 times. So the under hit on that. I checked my phone maybe 20 times, which is a sure sign that the movie's bad.
So
if
Mike-
you have, and I paid, by the way, $19.99 to see it. So on top of that, I was annoyed that I paid. Cocaine Bear is a movie that's been out for a while. It's going to come out, save the hour and a half. It is a complete waste. And please, Elizabeth, make better choices because you are so good at what you do, and this movie stunk.
Stinky Dinky.
David, thank you for being on with us. We will talk to you again next week. Cinephobe is something that you should find if you want bad movies reviewed. And Nothing Personal is something you should find if you want to support the things that David Samson is about. Thank you, David.
See you later.